Man, we got some breaking news, man, that we need to talk about, man. I just came across some more evidence that Kevin Stefanski is setting Shedeur Sanders up to fail. And you won't believe what is said in this clip. Shout out to the Dogs podcast for bringing this information to light. But we're going to unpack all that here next, here on the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Well, guys, man, welcome back, man. We got another interesting video for you guys today. And I came across some more evidence that Kevin Stefanski is trying to set Shedeur Sanders up to fail. But Shedeur Sanders has overcome some of the obstacles that have been thrown his way. Now, we all know what happened. Training camp comes. Shedeur Sanders don't get no reps with the first team. We saw Dillon Gabriel getting all the reps with the first team. Shedeur Sanders out there throwing the third string and fourth string players, keeping himself busy, waiting for his opportunity like Shedeur has always stated every time they ask Shedeur a question. In a press conference, he's handled himself well, and he spoke highly of his situation. And he's not knocking nobody. He's not downing nobody. He's just taking everything in stride, waiting for his opportunity. And he's staying ready. You know the saying is, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And when his number's called, he's ready to perform. Now, Dillon Gabriel goes down with a hamstring injury in training camp. Joe Flacco is sidelined. Kenny Pickett is sidelined. We haven't saw Kenny Pickett get no reps or anything like that. We don't know the information on Kenny Pickett. But, you know, the Cleveland Browns quarterback room is full. They got 5 quarterbacks currently on the roster. They got Joe Flacco on the depth chart as number 1, Kenny Pickett number 2, Dillon Gabriel number 3, Shedeur Sanders number 4. And they brought Tyler Huntley in because of the fact that Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco were not available. So they had to have an insurance backup. So they brought Huntley in. So what has happened? Dillon Gabriel goes down in training camp. And leading up to this Carolina game, Shedeur Sanders was named the starter for the first preseason game. And they thought Shedeur Sanders was going to go out there and lay an egg. They thought Shedeur Sanders wasn't ready because he wasn't getting no, reps with the first team. He was making the best of his opportunities. So that Friday night, as the world was watching, Shedeur Sanders put on a clinic. Shedeur Sanders let everybody know that he is a franchise quarterback. And certain situations that Kevin Stefanski put him in, Shedeur Sanders handled it well. But I have an interesting take from the Dogs podcast on what somebody said that really raises a lot of eyebrows about Kevin Stefanski. And we're going to get off into that, but we've partnered up with Underdog Fantasy. And this is a word from our sponsor. Underdog Fantasy is the best way to play fantasy sports. Let me tell you about the easiest way to get in on some WNBA and NBA action. Find your player, pick higher or lower, win you some extra cash. Pick between 2 to 5 players to fill out your pick'em entry, get every pick right, and win some serious cash. Use my promo code SBD23 and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Now that it's football time, follow Simply Ball Dropping as I share my picks. Like I said, pick your player, choose your amount, win money. Make picks, win cash. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for the partnership with us thank you for using promo code SBD23 on Underdog Fantasy. Well, guys, with that being said, man, y'all follow Simply Ball Dropping, man, as I disclose my picks for you guys to win some extra cash with Underdog Fantasy. And remember to use my promo code SBD23 to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Now, let's take a listen to what the Dogs podcast was talking about when they was talking about Kevin Stefanski trying to really set Shedeur Sanders up to fail. Now, pay attention to what they was talking about when Shedeur Sanders stepped on the field against the Carolina Panthers. And let's take a listen.
Knucklehead play call where it was 4th and 1 and we went empty. I'm like, you got a rookie quarterback. Kevin. You got a rookie quarterback who hasn't been getting reps, and you're going to put him in empty in 4th and 1 where he's like, if there's ever a time where you got to be able to pre-snap, recognize pressure, slide protection, that know your hot checks. That's when you need to know it,
right?
You know, and you just put him out there on 4th and 1. And you're like, well, let's see if he remembered this. You know what I mean? And so I didn't like that play call, but
I just came away with how the command of the offense was, just how buttoned up they looked. Our thing was we were terrified all week that it was just going to be a complete disaster. It was none of that. It was very, very refreshing.
It was. I mean, especially after the offense that we had to endure last year. I mean, it was hard to watch. Nobody knew what they were doing.
No.
And, you know, so much has been debated and argued about online and on all these shows and podcasts and stuff about, was he set up to fail? Did they, throw him out there, throw him to the wolves or whatever? It's like, I think the progression of how it all played out, I mean, they can't control the injuries. That led to, he was the only one left standing when it came.
Now, you heard what the guys had to say from the Dog podcast. Now, that was very interesting because they was talking about a play that happened in that Carolina game when Shedeur Sanders was under helm as the quarterback. It was 4th and 1, and the guy was talking about they emptied the backfield on a 4th and 1. Now, do you trust your rookie quarterback? So that goes to show that some of the play calling that Kevin Stefanski was calling for Shedeur Sanders was basically trying to make Shedeur Sanders fail. But like they stated, Shedeur Sanders handled the situation well. The other guy was talking about the command of the offense that Shedeur had. He just was more fluid. Now that takes us up to yesterday when Dylan Gabriel took the field against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Dog podcast was talking about something. And I want y'all guys to pay attention to what the guy was talking about when he was talking about Dylan Gabriel. Now let's take a listen to that.
Than some people are saying coming out of camp, but he's not as good as Shedeur Sanders. To me, nothing of that performance to me said this is the guy who should be stealing first team reps while Shedeur is 4th. If anything, I got the impression it should have been opposite. Shedeur should be getting first team reps and Gabriel should be the 4th string. And I'm not saying that he can't play at all, but I thought he didn't look as comfortable in the pocket. I thought his size looked like it could be a problem. Like a couple of his throws, he had to really get up on tippy toes. Was that sustainable? I also didn't like, once you got off the script is when he kind of got worse, and we saw Shedeur come out, and maybe you could say Shedeur struggled early or at least missed a couple throws, but he was up against ones. As Shedeur settled in and he was going 2s on 2s, 3s on 3s, you saw his play ascend. He got better as the game went on and he settled in and got comfortable. And I thought Dylan kind of got worse as the game went on and got off of the script. 2 turnovers is a big deal to me. 2 turnovers, no touchdowns. I thought it was telling too. We got to the red zone down inside that 5. They didn't let him really attempt a pass. Shedeur was throwing for touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel got to just turn around and hand it off a bunch of times. It kind of seemed like they were protecting him a little bit.
Now, you heard what the guy had to say, man. It's very interesting that this conversation came about because that goes to show you that Kevin Stefanski is trying to protect Dylan Gabriel to try to set Shedeur up to fail. But like I stated, guys, pay attention. Shedeur Sanders has handled these situations well. And just like the guy said in the earlier clip, he talked about the poise and the command of the offense that Shedeur showed against the Carolina Panthers. And then in this second clip, the guy went on to say that Shedeur Sanders got better as the game went on. And then he said about Dylan Gabriel that he got worse when he got off script. I think the pick six rattled him a little bit, and then the fumble rattled him. So Kevin Stefanski had to get him out in the third quarter because things started unraveling. And the Dog Podcast, they noticed that. They picked up on that. That's why they talked about it. So that's more evidence that's mounting up against Kevin Stefanski that he's really trying to set Shedeur Sanders up to fail, but Shedeur Sanders has overcame all the obstacles thrown his way. And that goes to show you that he is trying to protect Dylan Gabriel. The guy just stated that Dylan Gabriel should be 4th on the depth chart. Shedeur Sanders should be 3. Shedeur Sanders, me personally, he should be 1 or 2. Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback. But it's just more evidence that's mounting up on Kevin Stefanski that he's really trying to set Shedeur Sanders up to fail. And guys, I did a video earlier and I was telling you guys, just go back and look at the play calling from game 1 to game 2 in the preseason versus Shedeur at quarterback and Dylan at quarterback. Dylan at quarterback, everything was dip and dunk. It was scripted. Shedeur Sanders was making plays. He was throwing the ball down the field. I guess the whole playbook was open for Shedeur to try to see what he was going to do. But the guy in the first clip said they thought it was going to be a dumpster fire when Shedeur got out there because he wasn't getting no first team reps. But Shedeur, as a quarterback, you've been doing this all your life, man. You are prepared and well groomed for the situation. And Shedeur was prepared for the situation. Shedeur Sanders been like that ever since he started throwing that football. That's why Tom Brady thinks so highly of him, and a lot of people around the association think highly of Shedeur Sanders. There's no way that Shedeur Sanders should have been a 5th round pick, 144. There's no way. And the talk around the town about Cam Ward struggling in Tennessee, a lot of people thought that Shedeur Sanders should have been the number 1 pick. It should have been him and Travis 1 and 2. Or Travis 1 or Shedeur 2. But Jacksonville didn't need a quarterback because they got Trevor Lawrence. So they thought that Shedeur Sanders could have been the number 1 pick to the Tennessee Titans. But the way Shedeur Sanders was done in the NFL draft and slid all the way down to the 5th round and he was picked 144, and they trying to set him up to fail, but Shedeur Sanders, he got all the attributes to be an NFL legend, a franchise quarterback, and he can take a team to the promised land with the right pieces around him. But like I said, there's more evidence that Kevin Stefanski really don't think too much about Shedeur Sanders, man. Even if you look at after the game in Carolina, the post-game press conference, he started dancing around questions when they was asking about how Shedeur looked. But, he gave his honest opinion about Dylan Gabriel. So we're going to see, what happens. Just like these injuries in training camp. They talking about he had arm soreness. But Shedeur Sanders was like, I beg to differ. He just didn't get no reps. It was just another excuse not to get Shedeur no reps. And then the oblique injury is probably something that, is bothering him if it is an oblique injury. You can't throw the ball as a quarterback, but any other position with an oblique injury, you could probably play. If you was an offensive lineman or a tackle, but throwing the ball, that's going to aggravate it even more. But when he got on the field against the Carolina Panthers, I didn't see no signs of no arm soreness. He was putting the ball to the receivers and the running backs coming out of the backfield, pinpoint precision. And just like the guy said in the second clip, they was protecting Dylan down there around the goal line. They wasn't letting him pass the ball. They let him hand it off for these scores. They was protecting him, didn't want to make him look bad, because if you look in training camp, Dylan Gabriel was throwing picks in the red zone. Then they try to cover it up on the quarterback tracking because it was a 2-point conversion. They didn't want to put that on the stat line that he's throwing picks, so they left that out. So that just goes to show you, man, that's just more evidence, man, that Kevin Stefanski is setting Shedeur Sanders up to fail, and he's trying to elevate Dylan Gabriel's play. And it shouldn't be like that, man. Shedeur Sanders is an NFL quarterback. Y'all get down in the comment section and tell me what y'all think about today's video. I see everybody in the comment section, #salute. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, man. Y'all better hit the subscribe button. Turn the post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger. And that's going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.